Yeah. What's up? What's up? We back with another episode of Work in Progress. What it does, it's your boy Loso.
I'm Shoot.
Gimme.
All Star.
And I'm Ronald Dowdy, candidate for criminal court judge.
That was perfect right there.
Well, yeah, he introduced himself. We was going. I had written the whole introduction. You might not have liked the introduction. I was gonna take it back to 8th grade. We scrimmage job when you played with St. Vincent, and I went to Meigs, and y'all beat our ass. And but yeah, he introduced himself. Good friend of mine. Our daughters are best friends, and we go back. The three of us. Shoot, myself, and Ronald Dowdy, we were high school teammates, varsity basketball. So, you know, it's an honor and a privilege for him to join us and running his route, campaigning and otherwise. So, Work in Progress, we here to share our stories. So we wanted to, you know, give you the space to share yours, man. Where do we start? Where do we begin?
Man, well, first of all, thank y'all for inviting me here on your platform. I really do appreciate it. This is my first time being on the podcast. So
man. Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, so I'm just happy to be here, you know, to be able to break bread with y'all. And you know, y'all some of the smartest guys I know. I always have been, Jermaine and Shoot, you know. So I'm just happy to be in y'all presence, man. And we can take it to wherever you want to, man.
Well, you know, one of the things that we had talked about, which, you know, I guess is really important, time appropriate, is we had mentioned about the North Nashville overlay. And when we were talking about that, you know, we were just talking about how important it is to be engaged and, you know, how important these elections are. And, you know, like Cuz said, y'all, you got daughters. And so, you know, when you're looking at things like the decision to even run for judge, like how it impacts you, how it impacts your family, like what was one of the reasons that inspired you to run during this time, this cycle, you know, kind of right now?
Yeah, so, I mean, honestly, the thing that inspired me to run, I applied for the job, for an appointment. Judge Cheryl Blackburn, who I think those of us who follow criminal law in Nashville, she was kind of notorious for being someone who wasn't always nicest one. You didn't want to show up in front of Judge Blackburn. Right. So she stepped down, and I was talking to my wife about it, and she was like, well, you know, who's going to take her place? What's the whole process? So anyways, I applied for it, and I became a finalist after the Trial Court Vacancy Commission. That's attorneys across the state. They looked at my application, they looked at my references and said, all right, we're going to send your name up as one of the three finalists for appointment for the rest of the term. And obviously I didn't get the appointment because I would have said I am judge.
Right, yeah.
But it's all good. I spent the holidays when I actually had some time to sit down and, like, you know, be around my family, work slowed down. And I honestly feel like God would just kept putting it on my heart, you know. It, like, every night I would be waking up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and it would just be how I'm going to run a race, what I'm, like, you know, actually running a race, winning a race, what it's going to be like being on a campaign. I've never done anything like this. I haven't even worked on nobody's campaign before. So, yeah, honestly, I think that's what inspired me. I woke up January 1st, and I told Flynn, my wife, hey, I'm going to run. Yeah. And, you know, it took her a day to agree, which I understand. It's a big thing. We got little kids. But we went to church, and, you know, that pastor, I think he kind of spoke one of those messages that seemed like he was delivering it just to us for some reason. And, so that next day, I hopped in.
Man, that's awesome.
That's dope.
Yeah, it is. And so, you know, we talked about on the podcast, I ran for judge, and so for me, it was a good experience. It was an experience. And so, you know, you mentioned that you were a finalist. And so for those that don't understand, in Tennessee, you know, the governor is the one that ultimately appoints who will hold the position until there can be another general election. And then they'll specially set the election. And so the person that got the position, I believe he was
for lack of a better word, nominated or endorsed by a very conservative representative in the House of Representatives. And so, for me, I've taken the time and opportunity to read through your page, online. And of course, I know you personally, but as somebody that has ran for judge, I definitely, admire you for putting yourself out there, putting you have to be a certain level of visibility. Your family becomes very visible. Your children become very visible. And, just as much as you're sacrificing your time, they are too. So, I want to commend you and your family for putting yourself out there to do that. And, I definitely support you and support your positions and appreciate, I think, the balance that it brings, that you'll bring to the bench. And, maybe it'd be helpful, like, if you tell us a little bit about, like, your career in law, like how you became a lawyer, where you started practicing first, things like that.
Word. Well, thank you for your words of support, especially coming from somebody who, practiced on the other side. You were a defense attorney. We had cases together.
Yeah.
And that means a lot for somebody to say, I did battles. We didn't battle because I think we just kind of understood. But still, that's a some real respect there. I went to Howard University for undergrad. I went to University of Tennessee for law school, and I went to law school knowing I wanted to do criminal defense. Right, I did work with the intern with the Federal Defender's Office up in Knoxville, a private attorney up there who was getting crazy money as a defense attorney up in Knoxville. I saw somebody walk in with a bag of money. He was a country white boy drug dealer.
Yeah, I was gonna say it had to be a drug case making it like that.
Bag set it on the desk, and it had $50,000 in it. And that was $50K, and he went into prison for like 7 years. That was his payment to say thank you for only getting me 7 years in prison to the defense attorney. So he was very successful, that attorney up there. And then I worked for the legal clinic, which is just working with the indigent, and the public defender's office here in Nashville. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to be a defense attorney. And when I graduated, it was the middle of the recession. They didn't have any jobs. There was like a hiring freeze. And they came across an email to our career services office saying that the state attorney's office, which is the equivalent of the district attorney's office down in Miami, was hiring. I was 25, single, no kids. I said, I'll go interview in Miami. Let me see what that's about. And I do that for a couple of days.
I would too.
Right.
Do that now.
So I went to Miami, and I didn't know anybody down there, but ran into somebody. I didn't know I knew anybody down there. Ran into a lady who actually went to undergrad with me, and she had been doing her thing in the office, black woman. And she was like, yo, Dowdy, oh yeah, we're gonna get you this job. She took me all the way. I interviewed all the way up to the head of the office, got the job, and started working down there. I was down there for 7 years, working on cases, loving Miami. But then I met my wife, and it was time to leave Miami and go raise a family elsewhere.
Yeah, leave Miami.
Yeah,
For sure.
You have some memories over there? I see you kind of lost in the light. I see you lost over there.
I actually do. I have some memories in Miami, but we ain't here to talk about that. We ain't here to talk about that.
Yeah.
Definitely nice.
So from there, pivoting from practicing in Florida to eventually coming back home, your roots are here, you're from here originally. I was curious, like, what are some of the differences practicing? Because we always get the headlines, the Florida man, and and otherwise, and so just in the criminal court system overall, what would you say some of the differences are from practicing in Florida to back home in Tennessee, or is it more or less the same? Because I know we get the sensational, extreme headlines of it all, but are there some distinct differences from there to here?
There are definitely some distinct differences. I would say at the time, Miami had one of the highest caseloads in the country. So huge office, a lot of work. I would work long hours because there's a lot of crime down there. The city of Miami isn't that big, but the county is huge, right? So that metro area is humongous, lots of crime. And the Florida man story is true. Like, that is a real thing. Y'all remember bath sauce, like back, you know what I'm saying?
I got
decade or more
accused
ago?
of being on that one day, but it's all good. I'm going to talk about this later on.
That's why.
Another story.
That's why.
We're gonna return it.
But yeah, I remember there was a guy basically bit off somebody's face because he was on bath salts while I was down there.
I remember
so
that.
we had
I remember that too.
had to handle those cases. Something, crime is crime. So like a homicide is a homicide, but there's a lot more corruption down there. So when I was in Miami, I spent my last almost 2.5, 3 years on the public corruption team. Now, that was a task force where I was less in court than I am traditionally. And what we would do is we would go after dirty cops and corrupt government officials. And that was our whole thing. I would literally sit in my office, try to identify people, and we would open up investigations, kind of like what you might think the feds might be doing. So
How
that was
successful was that?
It was successful. We took down a mayor. There are a lot of municipalities around, so not the mayor of Miami, but one of the mayors in the area. Did a sting on a narcotics detective that ended up. He was smart. He avoided charges, but he's no longer a police officer, so that was good. We went after. There was a councilman. There was some people who. This guy who ran the airport, he was the director of the Miami International Airport. He stole $40 million or something crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are just some of the cases I helped be a part of. So they were funneling money out of it. We prosecuted a number of dirty cops down there and a lot of corrupt officials. And then the people who are like, trying to pay off the officials so they can get their deals under the table and stuff like that.
Right? Doing the Lord's work. I like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say from originally you said you set out to do defense, and then opportunity and otherwise led you, I guess you could say, to the other side of things. Did that kind of offset that, I guess, of the corruption part of it, the dirty cops and otherwise? Did you kind of feel like that was splitting the difference, or like for right now, pursuing a judge seat, is that kind of balancing it all out from where you began aiming for to where your experiences are more so been like?
Yeah. So I would say yes and no. Yes, it did make me feel like I was working in a space where I was being a prosecutor, but also fighting back against the system, quote unquote, which is what I think Shoot would agree. Many defense attorneys, you kind of perceive yourself, you represent your client, but you also are fighting against a system.
Yeah.
Right? So I did feel like that I was doing that. But when I met a guy who was a defense attorney who I respected, and he came and spoke to us in law school, black guy who's in town, he's doing really well. Now he's a defense attorney, but he had been at the district attorney's office in Nashville. He spoke to a group of us. He said the best defense attorneys used to be started as prosecutors because the prosecutors get the trial experience. And so in many ways, getting there, I thought, okay, I'm going to do what he said. I'm going to get the trial experience. I'm going to handle the case. I'm going to learn how the state works on their cases so I can learn how to defeat them. But they gave me two options when I started. Go handle petty crimes, low-level drug cases, low-level thefts, traffic crimes, or you can work on domestic violence cases. I said, well, I'm not going to be prosecuting nobody for stealing a milk crate. That was a big thing down there, the milk crate thefts. They would prosecute people for that. Said, send me domestic violence. If I'm gonna work on these cases, I want to help women who've been abused. So I went there. I had a bunch of cases, and I probably about halfway through my first year, this woman who, she was an immigrant, she had been abused for years and years by her husband. She didn't speak English, and I was doing a pretrial meeting with her, and in that meeting, it was my intent to tell her, like, this case isn't strong enough because the one that you brought us is him, slapping you and pushing you a couple times, but there's no evidence and there are no witnesses, and I don't think the jury is going to buy it. you know, it's possible they will, but I'm not sure that I'm gonna get a conviction. And, you know, through her telling me her story, she convinced me, no, like I've been abused, like I want my day in court. And I said, okay. She convinced me to go to court, to take her case to court, get there. Sure enough, I pull out every trick in the book that I knew. I didn't know a lot of tricks at that time, but I pulled them all out. And we lost. I mean, I lost the case, you know. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I walk out, I see her crying. I'm like, damn. I done put her through this trauma, through this experience. I should have just went with her and told her we weren't going to dismiss it. And through tears, she told me, thank you. Mm-hmm. You know, basically, that's the only time she spoke to me in English. Thank you for fighting for me. It gave her the power to take back her life. And I realized at that moment that I had always perceived that the system had been only bad towards people who, you know, black people, people without the money, to hire a good attorney. I never thought really that the victims of crime, like domestic abuse or other kind of crimes, come from those same communities, and they also feel like the system has never been fair to them. Mm-hmm. And so I that, in many ways, was a light bulb clicking on for me that says, all right, well, I can do this part, take care, make sure that we are not over prosecuting, over sentencing people as the prosecutor with the power, but I can also make sure that victims can get their justice too.
Yeah. Yeah, but like for the here and now, like you said, you were kind of moved into take the steps you're taking now. I guess is it almost splitting the difference? I mean, I only have my experiences with criminal court are pretty one-sided, so I have a very narrow perspective of it all. But I guess this would go to both of y'all. Is that how y'all view, like, that's what the judge seat is supposed to be by design? It's supposed to be neutral and otherwise, and both protective of, you know, the system of it all, and also like for the people. Because I think a lot of people where we come from don't see it that way. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean, you're right. And it ain't just that people don't see it that way. It's because your perception is your reality.
Yeah.
And that reality is true. You walk into that courthouse right now, what is Nashville? Maybe 35% black. The courthouse is probably 65, 75% black.
75, lady.
You know, something crazy.
I mean, and like even to your point of the perception is reality, like, you know, talking about seeing, like the first time I saw him back in court, I wasn't thinking about he a DA and I'm a defense attorney. I'm like, that's my nigga. Like, what's up, bro? Like, where you been? Like, you back from Miami? Like, you know what I'm saying? But then realizing, like, oh shit, like, you know,
yeah, he the ops.
Yeah. Right. That's well, not that. That's how people would perceive you as an attorney. They be like, oh, he all friendly and chummy with the DA, not realizing, like, outside of our roles in court, we're humans and we have relationships that pre-exist what our jobs are, how you encountered us. And so it is, you know, even you know, the idea of the number of black people that are in court, you know, the majority, the largest population are people that are criminal defendants. And then from there, it may be people that work at the court. And then you get to black people that are attorneys, you know, and then you may get to people that are witnesses, you know, but yeah, I mean, it is like, you know, at least for me, when I ran, I looked at it as an opportunity to balance the scales, because I think, you know, the time that I ran during the election cycle, it was quite opposite from the administrative today of DEI. And so people were really trying to highlight the diversity. And the thing that I talked about was being able to articulate a different perspective than what most judges see, because they've not ever had the experience that I've had, the lived experience that I have, whether or not it's in whatever neighborhood, just by being black, period, their experience is not going to be my experience. But you know, and that's the tricky part of running for office, is because, you know, you talk to everybody that you see, but you don't know, are they registered to vote? Are they in the county? Are they going to vote? You know, they'll tell you to your face that they going to vote for you, but you don't know, you know, but it's still necessary, you know, for people to tap in and make sure that they're educated about it.
Yeah. And I would say the judge is supposed to balance the scales, right? Yeah. There are a lot of things that the judge can do in that courtroom to make sure, number one, that the state is doing its job. because a big part of issues with the justice systems is the delay in the resolution of a case, right? So you've been charged, and if you are fortunate enough to make bond, like if you're in custody and you want your case to be resolved as soon as possible, either that means you're going to have the charges dismissed, or you're going to get a plea that you believe is fair and favorable to you, so you can go on about your life. But if you are fortunate to make bond, then sometimes those cases linger even longer, right? And you could go 2, 3, 4 years where you can't really get a job if you're somebody who, you're filing applications and then the job is saying they find out they do the background check, and so then you lose a job. You got an ankle monitor on you for all that time, so you're paying the money in order to have the ankle monitor. And what happens is that a lot of times a judge will just allow the case to keep moving on, get another court date. There are defense attorneys who aren't out here trying to do their job. They want to either linger it on, keep it going so they can get paid, and the DA may not be wanting to get the case resolved for whatever reason. And so the judge's role is to maybe, let's say, just very simply, like, we need to have this case resolved in a reasonable amount of time. I tell families, if I'm sitting down with a family, say, of a homicide case, look, it's probably going to take us about 3 years to get this case resolved. 3 years. And they're thinking like, well, my son, my brother, my family member was killed, and this person, is going to take 3 years for this to get, what's going to happen? Well, it depends. He may be on bond. Yeah, you might see him out at the grocery store. And of course, from the other side, if he's in jail and he's like, I didn't commit this homicide, well, it might take him 3 years to sit there before he gets exonerated. So we have to be more efficient. And because justice delayed, as you know, is justice denied.
How do we inch towards that being more efficient? How do we get to that?
There are a couple things that I think are pretty simple. Number one, we need to have the judge needs to be in court more often, right? We have what they call discussion dates. Discussion is usually Wednesday or Thursday. That's a day where all the cases appear and the courthouse is most packed. What are we doing Monday, Tuesday, and Friday? A lot of the judges are not exactly in session.
Playing golf or something.
No,
Well,
man. I'll just tell you like this. I can tell you like this. You got the docket times. You got a 8:30 appearance docket that is not a subpoena docket, so don't nobody come to that.
Yep.
Next docket is your 9 o'clock dockets that everybody has in every courtroom at the same time, and then they'll have a review docket, like 11 o'clock. So once they call those dockets, technically the judge is done. Yep. Unless there's a resolution that has to happen. The judge's job is to call the docket. So they'll call the docket, make the appearance. They may have an announcement. Somebody has to do a plea deal. They'll be like, I'll be back in an hour. Catch me at 10. I'll run through all the pleas. So, there are certain things, to his point, that can be done more efficiently because, I've experienced where a DA just don't want to make a decision. It's like we can either have a hearing. Either you believe what I'm telling you or you believe what you think. And if you don't believe what I'm telling you, cool, let's set it up for a hearing and we'll let the judge or the jury decide. But most of the times, or sometimes in this particular instance, they wanted to control and make the decision. And so for my client, what that means is, like you said, anchor monitor that you pay for weekly. Every time you get a new court date, that's a new court cost. And it's not the state that's paying for the court costs, it's the defendant paying for the court costs. So now let's say you go 6 continuances and you get to a resolution. Well, the part of your plea, man, you got to pay for court costs. And let's just say that they cost $150 per day. You do the math. You can do the math for me real quick. $900.
There you go. $900 on top of your fees and your fines because. But yeah, so those are some of the things because I know when people call me and ask me hey, I got this going on, I try to figure out what the type of case is and I'll make a reference to that attorney that I feel like will do the work, to his point. Public defenders get a bad rap because of social media, internet, TV shows, they're easy scapegoat. Appointed attorneys, same way. You know, people don't realize that attorneys that are practicing law pass the same test. Don't matter what job they took, they pass the same test to be a lawyer. And so, you know, people may not get an opportunity to choose their counsel. They get appointed counsel, a public defender. They have a high caseload. So it's a number of factors that can slow your case down. But like I said, it's about making sure that whoever it is, you know, like when I'm referring to somebody, that they gonna fight and do the work for the case. Actually look at the police report, actually look at the body cam footage, look, you know, investigate the witnesses, draft subpoenas if necessary. But it is a system. And, you know, I've got, you know, some friends that are going through some stuff. And, you know, once you kind of get into the DV, especially a DV cycle, when you're talking about family life and mothers and fathers and children, you know, it just becomes a very difficult thing of.
I've been through it. So, yeah, I already know.
Yeah.
I already know.
Yeah, and you gotta, the judge can literally set deadlines, and a lot of them do, but make sure they're adhering to the deadline. You know, and all of the defense attorneys, most of the public defender's office, they are here in Nashville at least. I can't speak anywhere else. They doing it for the right reason. They're working hard. I would say, from my perspective, having been at the district attorney's office, most of the DAs in the office, they are reasonable people who, in many ways, share the same values. Right? We're coming from the same side, coming at the same thing from different sides of it. They are not, let's lock everybody up for the longest period of time. Now, that's my perspective, and you know, y'all can have your own. That's okay. A lot of times what happens, though, is people, you got a high caseload. My last caseload, I think I had about 300 cases, you know, and we're talking, you know, serious crimes, homicides, et cetera, rapes, aggravated robberies, ag assaults. It's a lot of stuff to go through, and I got a family too. I want to go home. I want to go to happy hour. I want to go, you know, do all the do those things. So it can be easy to, you know, I spend all day working on one case and say, man, all right, I got to move on. Defense attorney's job is to say, hold on, this my client case is the most important case, even though you got 300. Mm-hmm. And if they're not doing their job and I'm not doing my job, then somebody's got to say, okay, what's going on with this case? Mm-hmm. And that's what the judge should be doing. Because ultimately, until they start doing hearings, for the most part, they're just managing the docket and saying, okay, this case has been continued 3 times, 4 times. I need to see some movement on this. Mm-hmm. You know, they're the manager in that regard of the case.
So
you know?
Who holds them accountable? Who holds the judge accountable?
The voters.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, specifically with the division that's now open, before she graciously retired, there were a few attorneys that filed complaints against Judge Blackburn because of, you know, some ways that she responded to some hearings, the way that she was carrying herself. She had a stroke, so it was known that she had some medical health issues. And so those are ways, like, you know, attorneys can file, you know, a judicial complaint, or a citizen can file a judicial complaint. That's one way, you know, and those complaints are investigated. I mean, they have an attorney. As a matter of fact, one of my teachers from Nashville School of Law is the attorney that does the investigations. They call attorneys involved in their cases. They interview them to see if whether or not is the judge impaired, because again, you know, that is not just for that particular judge, but it's the entire system. Mm. So if you lose faith in this one judge because they're allowing them to make decisions where, you know, they're not considering all the facts, or they're suffering from some type of effects of medication because they're taking medication, and, you know, that can impact or have all of their cases reviewed, and they don't want to, you know, do that. So that's one way.
What was the name of the judge? I had a judge. He passed away. Was it Smith? Judge Smith? Is that his name?
Nah, you might be talking about Judge Wyatt. Was it? Well, how long ago?
A couple of years ago. It ain't been that long. I mean, since I've been.
Oh, no. You're right. Yeah. He talking about family court. Fourth Circuit. Yeah.
Is it Smith?
Smith, Judge Smith. He passed away.
He was a good man. I've always been fortunate to have really good judges over my cases, and he was one of them. So I R.I.P. You know, good dude.
Indeed.
Good dude.
Well, that's what you need is a judge who's just gonna see you as a person, actually look at the case, and not decide. You know, he actually gonna see you as a human, give you your dignity and your day in court.
Yeah, Judge Philip Smith. Yeah.
Just
Really,
really good man.
You said family court, and we talking criminal court. And it's a lot of different, I guess, branches or divisions of court and otherwise. I mean, I'm not proud at all of some of the issues and troubles I've gone through, but I think one of the toughest lessons or like the most gravity that I got, it was maybe the least trouble that I had been in my adult life, but it was in like a traffic court situation, and I saw where a judge could be kind of like heavy-handed or closed-minded or like however you look at it. It was weird. It was a situation where I got a ticket. Essentially, I mean, it was a profiling kind of situation. They had flashlight in my car while I was in a restaurant, and supposedly they saw some smoking paraphernalia or something, but you know they didn't. They waited till I got in the car and drove off. They followed me for about 3 miles before they pulled me over. So, you know, by the time I got pulled over and searched and otherwise, I wasn't, you know, they didn't find what they were looking for.
You weren't in possession of anything.
No, I mean, I don't know what they thought they saw, but but after all this, it was like a 2-hour process. They called dogs. It was a lot. So, you know, when it was all said and done, the officer pulled me to the side. He was like, man, or the supervising officer that had called, he was like, man, my guy's new. Look, you were in a restaurant, he flashlight in your car, he saw a blunt, and man, just tell me you threw it out or whatever. So he's about to cry back there. He's going crazy. And I'm like, I don't know. You might need to get him checked out. I don't know what he thinking. So, you know, after all this, they end up giving me a ticket and said I didn't come to complete stop upon leaving the parking lot that I was parking in. It was like exiting the parking lot is supposed to be like treated like a stop sign. It was a traffic law that I learned that day. But I'm like, so why you ain't pull me over when I pulled out of the parking lot? I was like, I made like 7 turns and got on the interstate and got pulled over on 440. So I get this like traffic citation. It was just really like frustration. Like we ain't find what we was looking for. We gotta
do something.
Give you a ticket. So instead of paying a $40 ticket, $50 ticket or whatever, I went to traffic court like, nah, I'm gonna fight for my. I didn't do this. Like, I want to see your camera or whatever. Like, and I went in court, you know, guns blazing, like with the full rundown. This is what happened, and you know XYZ, and this other guy told me this. I went through the whole rundown, and I was like, man, I was on a date. You know, I know I came to complete stop because when we were leaving, I was asking her where we going next. I was like, so I know I didn't just. And when I went through the whole rundown, the judge, he never looked up at me. That was the interesting thing. He was like, yeah, you said you were on a date. Sounds like to me you were distracted. And yeah, I'm pretty sure you just probably rolled up. And like he just like it was 10 minutes of testimony or whatever, and you know, I lost. And I was just pissed off because I'm like, I'm looking at the officer over there like, we didn't bring they never said nothing about the weed or whatever. It was just, you know, I guess somebody that was actually fighting a traffic ticket that day. And I was pissed. I'm walking out of the courtroom and I don't know if it's a bailiff or the officer that was at the door. He could see I was mad leaving out because now this $50 ticket was probably like, now I got court costs. So So I'm walking out. The officer was like, man, come here. He was like, bro, you ever thought about being a lawyer? I was like, hell no. He was like, so he was like, man, bro, like, man, I was with you. Like, he said, but let me tell you something. He's like, it didn't matter what you came in there and said. You lost when you walked in. He was like, that judge is... And so, like, that wasn't criminal court. Like I said, it wasn't a serious thing, but it was kind of deflating that, like, this is somebody that works in the court every day, stands at that door and watches all these cases getting heard. He was like, it didn't matter what you said. It didn't matter what the facts were. This person's mind was made up when they put on the robe this morning or otherwise. And I was like, damn, like, I got in other trouble after that, and I always was conscious of that. And like, man, I might be fighting a losing fight. You know what I'm saying? So
I mean, like even like the thing of like the volume of cases that he's talking about that he had on his docket. So you can imagine a judge, you know, they got maybe 60, 70 cases, you know, minimum per docket. And the attorney's job, which is why whenever we talk about legal shit, like I'm always asking, where is it at? Like which county is it in? Like who is it that I know in that county? Because what people don't realize when it's relationships too. It's not just your client, the facts of the case, but it's also the relationships that you have. Like if I took a case in criminal court right now, that would cause a lot of attention because I haven't had a lot of cases down there recently. And so then it starts making the people that are there every day wonder like, what's going on? Why is he here? You know, and then that could alert the judge, and the judge now is like, well, let me see these facts a little differently. Let me see these things. And so like, even if you in Sumner County, you know, you may know somebody that just practices up there, but you going to want to know, like to the bailiff's point, who is the mover and shaker that the judge listens to. So like when that person come in there, you know, years ago, it would be like somebody like a Rich McGee. You know, if anybody know Rich, like, oh yeah, he gonna get your drug case, whatever, you know. And so like that's to your point about what the bailiff saying, he already made his mind up, and it's because you didn't have whoever that person was in that courtroom that gets that judge's attention for the judge to say, oh, let me listen to what he's saying, you know, or let me take into consideration that maybe some of these things aren't true, which is why I think it's important to have somebody like Dowdy in there, because he will look at it, you know what I'm saying? Like each person is a person. It's not just this is a case number, all right, next kind of thing. You know, at least that's what I get.
Like, I guess some judges much rather speak to attorneys instead of, you know, speaking to this regular person coming in and talking to them. They won't listen to you for real because you don't know what you're talking about for real. And they rather talk to an attorney and have that. You know, it's best to have one represent you.
Yeah, I think some of that is it's twofold. It's not just that they don't want to listen to an individual citizen because they have to legally, but I think what it is as an attorney, I have a different level of credibility, and so when I'm telling the judge a conclusory stuff, like a conclusion to some evidence, they understand that I filtered it through these quote unquote elements for this, whatever it is. So if I'm telling you, hey, this is why I think you should do this, it's because I've already considered all the things that you go, like you asked me, well, here's why I said this, or here's this, you know, and it gives the judge something to lean on, you know, just being transparent, because if, you know, when we talk about filing motions and, you know, the judge makes an order or a ruling, 90% of the time, that whichever way the judge goes, they're going to use some of the whatever the attorney quoted, right? Because they're using that legal analysis as to say, here's why I came to my conclusion. So unfortunately, again, that's just how the system is set up. You know what I'm saying? To where how somebody can get another leg up advantage as opposed to them going themselves, because everything he's saying in the stop is true.
Right.
Like if he's saying, I didn't know where I was going, I had to stop. I didn't know if I was turning left or right. Like I stopped. But if you don't have somebody that can pull that out more, so you didn't know where you were going, where'd you wind up going after you left? Well, I went this way. So, but because you have considered that you would have gone the other way, yeah, then I would have had to made a left, or which then brings the judge in to show, well, he did have some decision-making time. The car rocked back and forth or whatever, you know, or asking the police officer different things, you know, so that is what helps give them, you know, that credibility.
I've been watching Law and Order and Matlock like the whole week. Like,
You was ready to go.
I was locked in, man. I'm having PTSD about this, man. Now it was like, you know, I like you said, I laid out everything's like, you know, clearly they were waiting on me to break a traffic law. You know what I mean? They followed me out. I gave the entire route. I had looked up the distance and time that it took and otherwise, and I'm like, you know, but it was just one of them things that sometimes as a citizen we kind of, or like I said, from where I come from, and being profiled is a real thing. It just feel like a losing fight. It feel like it doesn't matter what I did, or it doesn't matter what I do. You know, this is gonna be the end result of it. I was getting pulled over either way. You know, and more than that, when they didn't get their desired outcome, it ended up still costing me more, just because I didn't just submit. You know, even on the scene, like, well, just say this, just. Concede to this. And I mean, even when you were talking about plea deals and otherwise, like to me, that's what a lot of the system is built on, you know, and the conviction rates and you know, whatever's deemed. When you spoke about the domestic violence victim that viewed her loss in court as a win because she was heard, a lot of times it's like, what is, you know, what is the success or fail, or what is, you know what I'm saying, a win or a loss? I guess it's just a perspective thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I see how you could interpret it, that as her seeing it as a win, because there are definitely some women who are using the system against, you know, just getting the arrest, just making them have to hire an attorney. That happens. I saw that. I led our domestic violence team, and so I would see those cases, and it's just, you got to be discerning enough, you know, to see like this right here, what she's saying is bullshit. It don't match up, and or, you know, and actually like do a little bit more digging and research and see, okay, yeah, she got some scratches, but so does he, right? So this is a mutual combatant situation, and this is how they get down, and you know, it's probably best that this is not in this situation in the justice system. They just need to stay away from each other and figure out how to manage their own anger. But there are some times where if you do dig even further, you say, okay, well, yeah, she was fighting back actually, because he been so abusive, and it takes some real just life experience and understanding and actually trying to get to the bottom and understanding the truth on a DV situation. But I'll tell you, most people, I hear about conviction rates a lot. People who have never worked at a district attorney's office, prosecutor, and they think, they'll ask me, like, what's your conviction rate? Like, homeboy sitting around, like, what's your conviction rate? Honest answer, I have no idea. Like, it ain't, I have never tracked it. I've never considered it. Like, I've dismissed more cases than I care to count, and I've dismissed homicides, and I've dismissed the lowest level thing. I mean, if the case needs to be dismissed, it will be. If the case needs to be pled down because it said it was charged as up high, but really the facts are somewhere down here, then that's how it's going to be. That's what I've always tried to do. I know what my trial rate is because I'm not taking a case to trial unless I believe in it. And that story I said before, like, that was my first year in practice. And I think probably today, with that same story, I'd probably try to take it to trial because she convinced me that he had been so abusive to her for so long that I would try to give her a day in court. But I've spent a lot more time looking at it and saying, this is not beyond a reasonable doubt. And therefore, I'm not charging the case at all. I had authority to bring charges or not. Most of the time, the DA is deciding whether or not to continue with the charges that the police have brought. In my supervisor roles, I've had the authority to decide, are we even going to charge this case or not? So a lot of times, there's a lot of times I just said, we can't prove this beyond a reasonable doubt, or this person I think is actually innocent, or this story don't add up. It don't make me feel right. So I wouldn't bring the charges even together in any way, as opposed to charging it and then we have to dismiss the charges later. So I don't know what my conviction rate is, but you know, generally speaking, most people who are charged, arrested, indicted, it's going to result in some version of a conviction. I don't know what that rate is, but I think most people think it's somewhere in the 90s that they're going to plead out to something.
Yeah.
So that's probably true, but I don't know what my personal one is.
Man, I guess I'm equal parts playing devil's advocate, and I hate being the like resident expert as the criminal on the panel here. I'm more law abiding than not these days. Proud of that, but I've been in a situation. It was highly publicized, and otherwise we don't gotta get into the details of it. But where I ended up pleading out, and I ended up, you know, I guess copping out or the the results of it was a far lesser charge, and in one way, it had to be kind of viewed as a win considering what I was facing originally. And the other part of it is what you mentioned. It was like, man, after going to court on it for a year and a half, and I had a child on the way, and it was a number of factors that, in my heart of hearts, I felt like I wasn't legally wrong. But it was gonna probably be another year and a half or so, if not longer, to prove that. And the process of it, let alone the expense of it, it was stressful, it was time consuming, and it was just like a dark cloud hanging over. And so it's like, ultimately, I got convicted of something as a result of it. Now, it may have been a path of least resistance. I didn't have to like lay down and do jail time and otherwise. But I don't know. It's like you said. Like so the idea of conviction rate, some of it is nuanced and some of it is layered in terms of what a conviction means. And then there's people on the other side of it that might feel like, man, this was a heinous crime, a violent crime that happened in the public. Even in real time, it's like, man, certain judges are gonna feel like gun crime should come with jail time, and that's some people stand on that. I guess that might even be somebody's like platform, something that they run, campaign on. Obviously in the South and our gun laws are what they are, but everything that comes with it, I just remember it being like such a touchy thing, and that like you said, it was like, well, who's seeing this case? Because that's as much of a factor as the facts almost.
Yeah.
And in real time, like I'm just speaking from the experience. I've been there. Like, well, I'm gonna just get low and go, as they say. I'm gonna, as opposed, okay, it's not the charge it's not gonna be a felony or it's not gonna carry this. And it got to a point I could see the case weakening in real time, but I'm also dealing with this, like you said. Like I'm on bond, like
right.
I want my rights back,
and you got bond conditions,
right?
That's gonna prevent you from
now,
you can't carry, right?
I'm vulnerable in a lot of ways, and I'm like, you know what? It got to a point where it's like, all right, I'm gonna just go with what form fits like my lifestyle. Like I have to travel for work. I have to protect myself as I have a relatively like dangerous job, high impact job in terms of, people know what I do for a living, I guess. But
I would say so.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was a question in there, but I wanted to ask you, Los, because you've been kind of mute on. What are your experiences with like legal system, even maybe third party or just from the outside looking in, like that may be formed how you view all this? Because obviously we're trying to bring awareness to voting in your local elections and otherwise, but I think we all have our own experiences that affect how we view things. So
statute of limitations up.
Oh man, I
It
don't trying to get
depends. You
your
don't
time,
have to ask me before you say it.
Right. Man, I had a case when I turned like 17 or 18, but it got expunged. I don't even want to tell y'all about it. It was stupid.
Technically don't exist if it's expunged.
Well, it don't. But the people out there watching, they gonna bring this up, man.
Allegedly.
Next sponsorship meeting.
Oh,
don't even talk about it.
Yeah.
Don't even talk about it.
I just meant at large, what's your...
I mean, I learned in different ways, even in business, we nothing happened, y'all, by the way. Just joking. But nah, man. Can I talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. I had a trademark battle with like a university. And yeah. And man, I spent a lot of money, a lot of time. Went through like 3 different lawyers trying to figure it out and get it done. And in the end, I don't think I came out and say I won. I think it was not fair, but I still left with something as far as like the legal mark for my business. And it was just one of those things where it's like, it kind of made me feel like little. As far as like, man, I'm facing something super big. I'm facing this corporation. This ain't just like this a university. Like they got plenty of money like I'm talking about the day before
It was
supposed to go through the system. They stopped it.
Yeah.
It was like, hold on, little brother. We like, you know what I'm saying? Let's see about that. And it went just back and forth for a few years, and then, I mean, and then just even working in community. Then my wife is a lawyer, so like I deal with a lawyer every day, and she's a beautiful woman. Great person. I love my wife, and just understanding like from her perspective of like law and what she deal with on a day-to-day basis. I feel like I'm a lawyer, so I'm over here really. That's why I'm quiet, because I don't want to. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm a lawyer too. You know.
Go to law school then.
Might have to go to law school.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm obviously, I'm married to a lawyer too, so it's one thing my wife is a beautiful woman too, so we'll leave it at that. I argue in court all day, so coming home is a great relief.
Yeah, most definitely. But like, I mean, that's my like situation as far as like with law. Like, I mean, we, in a sense, we kind of deal with like judges, like councilmen, councilwomen, like all the time as far as like community stuff. So it's like, it's kind of like you playing in that field. And so like this past week, my business, Nashville Black Market, we threw a mixer for Black History Month for Pulcinelli and Alliance and Bernstein. And so it's like, I'm in the entrepreneurship space, DJ, whatever, like, but sometimes like our worlds get crossed over into y'all's worlds, and it's like, it's just kind of like how ball players want to be rappers, entrepreneurs want to be professionals want to have a creative outlet or a creative release. So it's like you kind of find yourself meshed in their worlds, because like in reality, you running a business, you're gonna need a lawyer gonna need clients, and it's just kind of universal. And then it's like a lawyer or even as a judge, you gotta be around the people. If you are not around the people, then the people don't know you. I think that's even with like some of the mayors we've seen in the past. It's like you see them out at the community events. If you don't see them out at the community events, they ain't in the community. So it's like if you don't continue to see their face or know them, I think that's a test to a lot of people's like campaigns. Like if they constantly see them, they just showing up. They ain't showing up for a photo op. They just showing up. You see him. Oh, I see him all the time. Yeah, he just started to like facial recognition. So I think that's a lot of we've seen a lot of people show up to the events in that space and kind of do that, and that's kind of how we've been able to kind of like commandeer like just like the community access, just the support from that standpoint too. So it's bigger than what people think it is too. And y'all also got a lot of like, they got a lot of power, but you also have a lot of like purpose and a lot of responsibility. A lot of people don't really see the responsibilities that y'all have like on a day-to-day basis. Like a lot of people depend on y'all. People put their lives in y'all hands for you to trust them to go to bat for them, and whether it's in the courtroom or whether it's out in the legal field or wherever it may be, people really trust y'all. So I don't know. I can go on and on, about the legalese, and I went to took that bar, all that,
Yeah, go on and go to law school.
I might have to go to law school. My wife gonna be like, "Boy, you always trying to be like me."
I mean, yeah, go. If you want to be a lawyer, if you just want to have a degree, I would say don't even worry about it. It's a waste of your time and your money. You're already successful and got your building out your business and your brand. I've been in politics, I guess technically, because I have to run for office for about a month now. And one thing that is clear to me is, if you're going to ask people for their vote, you got to go where the people are.
What's that?
And so, for example, I'll be at y'all having events this upcoming weekend, so I'll be out there.
Most definitely. Shout out.
I'll be out there. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where the people are going to be. And I got to go to where they are and ask them. And that's why all the other people who are in that world are going to be there. Because so in reality, the people who have the power, people like you know what I'm saying, like y'all who are able to bring out people organically, they want to show up for that. Yeah. People who are running for office or in elected office, we're trying to convince. In the race I'm running, there's like 450,000 registered voters, I guess. One would thereabout here in Davidson County. They're projecting maybe 40,000 people show up to vote. Right?
Less than 10%.
Less than 10% will show up to vote. So who really has the power? Like, you know, is it the elected official who is begging, pleading to get people out, or is somebody who can, you know, put a flyer up on Instagram, get a venue and get 500, 1,000, 2,000 people to show up and spend their money, you know what I'm saying? There, or however many people you gonna have to come out for hours. So yeah, it's politicians don't have the power.
No, they don't. And speaking of which, I'm glad you brought that up about the Nashville black market. We'll make sure to put Dowdy's information for his campaign in the description, so that if you feel led to contribute to his campaign, campaigns aren't free. I'm saying that from experience. The mailers cost money, all the paper products that they have to send out, the volunteer staff that they use, the software that they use to collect funds, all those things cost money, so it's a part of the American system. So if you're so inclined, please make sure that you go to his website. You can tell him if you know it by heart. I don't know it by heart.
It's votefordowdy.com. Vote FORDOWDY.com.
So make sure you check that out.
Yeah. Can I something else you had mentioned before was about being profiled.
Yeah.
Right? And that reminds me of an incident I had when I was in Miami still. So I was in Miami. They had these badges they would give us, and it looked just like a police badge, right? The old school kind where you would flip it out.
my dad had more rush out. Can't even get it out.
Word. So they would give us that. And everybody would use it as their wallet because they had a little area where you could put like your license and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I got this badge and that was my wallet. So I'm driving this old 95 Maxima, windows don't roll down. And, you know, I'm a dreamer, I'm a Pisces. So I'll be riding through the neighborhoods in Miami looking at them, you know, $20 million houses and everything. Like, one day I'm going to get this, making $40,000 a year. Never. And I get... all of a sudden, I'm riding middle of the day. Lights, you know, I hit a police light. Said, whoop, pull me over. All right. What you doing? I'm just riding through the neighborhood. Literally, it's middle of the day. I ain't doing nothing but driving. I ain't did no traffic violation. I'm just a black man in a shitty car in a nice neighborhood. That was it. Pulled over. Let me see your license. I pull it out. They see the bag. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. My bad. Pull up. Go on about your day. I keep riding through the neighborhood. Probably about 5 minutes later, whoop, whoop, another car. Damn. Again? Same situation. Like, and now I'm getting a little annoyed. You feel me? Go on about your day, sees the badge. Oh yeah, it's all right. Third time. Now I'm about to exit the neighborhood at this point, get pulled over again 3 times. And like, couldn't have been more than 10, 15 minutes. 3 different cops, not the same guy. Pulls me over. And like I said, I'm about to leave the neighborhood, so I pull off into a parking lot to get out of traffic or whatever. And before they start getting out the car, I see another cop car pull up. You know what I'm saying? Then I see another one. Now, his two of these cops done pulled me over in the RDC. Ain't no situation here at all. I've done no infraction. I'm not under the influence. They know that I'm at the state attorney's office as a prosecutor. A second car comes, third car comes, fourth car comes, and they approach my car on all sides. Sorry. So I got 4 cops, 2 on each side, and one of them he got the assault rifle out. Yeah. Now I'm shook. Like I am scared as can be. I'm about to be I'm about to die.
Mm-hmm.
And they like, roll the window, roll the window down. My window rolled down, bro. So I'm trying to open the door. Don't open the door. Like, bro, So we had this whole situation, and then we get to the point where, let me see your ID. Actually, it's sitting on my lap at this point because I ain't even had a chance to put it up. Pull it out. Now he sees, you work for the, like, yeah, man, like, because I'm not in a suit and tie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dressed like I would be any other day. And so that is one of the things I guess I should have said earlier that motivated me to, while I was down there, to move into the public corruption. It wasn't my first time being racially profiled by the police at all. Had it happened multiple times here. One time at the basketball game in Hugh Falls, on the way home, got pulled over for no reason off of West End. But that was a situation that will always stick with me because, like, that if I wasn't in my right mind, maybe I had been smoking some weed or something that would allow them to get in the car. If I had allowed my anger to take me to a point where I was gonna act out and respond, move aggressively or in a way that they thought was gonna be threatening, I wouldn't be sitting here with y'all. And I always will remember that as I've handled cases and I look at them through that lens. When I read those reports, I understand that what they're saying isn't always the accurate or the truth. And then when you look at the body cam, you can see that, it isn't always true. And I've handled cases that way, and I've dismissed cases because, I always remember how I was treated on multiple occasions and know that, it ain't, what they're saying ain't always true or fully accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's heavy.
Yeah, it is heavy, man.
Yeah, 3 times in the same neighborhood in 15 minutes is crazy. But
And the escalation
maybe that comes with having a $20 million house. You just got,
Stay your ass out of my neighborhood.
Right. Real neighborhood watch.
Yeah. I ain't mad at it.
I was gonna ask, this just a little bit off center. I guess that's my thing. You had mentioned, you said something about reasonable doubt, and it made me just think the television show or otherwise, and both of y'all could probably speak to this. How accurate do y'all think the court system is portrayed in like media and movies and TV, film and otherwise? I said something about Law and Order and otherwise, but how spot on do y'all think that is?
Let me add a part B to your question, to what you're saying. Like, based on his question, and then like how, because we've seen TV shows, law shows that are in Miami, right? So like comparing your experience that you really lived in Miami to what we've seen on TV to kind of give us a barometer, if you will, about how far away from the truth or perception it is, maybe will help us.
Yeah.
Well, also at large.
Yeah.
We're in Tennessee.
Yeah,
Well, like I said, for you too. Like from, what's that movie? I think it was that show, Your Honor.
Your Honor, yeah.
Well, yeah, Your Honor was maybe the most recent, other than Reasonable Doubt, that's the most recent, like, television film kind of thing that I feel like gave some, because he was ultimately, like, conflicted, having some personal stuff going along with his professional stuff, but just also just the portrayal of it, like, at large. Like, how accurate is that? Obviously, it's dramatized. Obviously, the time lapse part of it ain't accurate, because like we said, cases labor on for years a lot of times versus, in media you all you see is this case and it's the only perspective it looks like they go every day for a case, and I guess in trial maybe sometimes it's sort of like that. But what's y'all take on it?
I mean, but the fact that you see in a TV show, you'll see the crime, you'll see the investigation, you'll see the resolution all in the hour episode is like the biggest thing, because you won't see that. As an attorney, I'm not gonna see the crime. Like, I might see reports about the crime. I might see some documentation that records the crime. Maybe it was caught on video. Maybe there's some pictures of injuries after the fact. There's some witnesses who are gonna say, I saw this and this is what happened. But I'm not there to experience it myself. Otherwise, I couldn't handle the case. I'd be a witness to it. So I don't. That is something that happens, and a lot of times, it's so dramatized that it isn't real in any meaningful way, other than the fact that they are depicting that it is in court. They don't show you the mundane, boring stuff that actually matters the most, for the most part, which is picking a jury. They don't really show you that. They don't show you the parts of the hearings or the discussions between the attorneys. That's what matters a lot. When the defense attorney's calling me to talk about the case, they don't show you the conversations that where we're having with the witnesses necessarily, unless it's real dramatized, right? A lot of that isn't so dramatic. So they're based on true stories. I know they pick, especially like the Law and Orders and stuff, they'll pick out a case that was like very salacious, and then they'll based on a true story, then do it. But sometimes like reality is like crazier than fiction too. So I mean, I've had some cases that you couldn't write it. Like the drama was as tense as it felt like I was in a movie. Where you see somebody come out and the emotion on them is so real, like there's no way you could capture that on film. How it has affected them, something that happened to them, or a case. I'll say something. The one place you never want to stand in the courtroom, especially the criminal courthouse, is right outside the courtroom doors. Like, don't stand right there, because inevitably somebody's coming out hot and they throwing them doors open, and you will get busted upside the head. It is real. I'm telling you, they kicking them doors open.
I done swung them doors open.
Nah, I'd say that, so I agree, the things that aren't shown on TV, and sometimes, let me say, so like your primetime television law shows are definitely far from reality. I think that some of the like Netflix, HBO, like those prime networks where they're doing streaming networks that buy seasons, like the most recent show that I watched is canceled now, ironically, is Suits LA. And it was based off Suits that was based in New York. But what they did was they took a matter, like one crime or one issue, and they stretched out the entire season. And so the whole season was about one case. And so you did get to see what he's talking about, like witness statements, because a big part of what the boring part of law is going through the evidence, because that's what you really can prove. That's what you can lay a foundation for, to put it in front of the jury. When you go through, voir dire is fun, like jury selection. Because
What'd you say?
Voir dire.
What that mean?
Jury selection,
okay,
in Latin, essentially.
Yeah.
But that gives, like, for me, I like it because you get to talk to a group of, sometimes 60 people, and you got to synthesize your 12, and you got to pick up on you asking them. Like, what's interesting is how you figure out who is on the jury. Like, I think maybe for me, when I started having trials, I really enjoyed that, because there's ways to find out information about people, and they're not really looking at the question as you're looking at it. It's like something simple as, do you listen to the radio on the way to work, or do you stream? While you're listening to the radio, what radio station are you listening to? Is it 106 Talk, or is it 90.3? That answer lets me know on a spectrum immediately about how you feel about certain things, and then I can dig into it.
You watch Fox News or CNN? Like,
you watching Fox?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm making a little note. Let me, or it depends, because if it's a gun case, I might want somebody on it that's pro-gun, So, but like those things, those nuances that we deal with, it's so hard to explain that on a TV show where you got, 3 minutes of commercials every 5, and you got to tell this story in so many words and so many minutes. So those things, like you said, are just not included. But I mean, like some of those longer form shows, like Suits, like I said, that stretches it out long term, where you see the attorneys having those conversations like, well, I reviewed this evidence and this report, and here's what I gleaned from talking to this person, and seeing how that influences the other attorneys. But for the most part, they just entertainment.
You said Suits, LA. You got a favorite movie or television or some programming that's based on law or otherwise? Just curious.
Man, I ain't gonna lie to you. I stopped watching those shows a lot. The one they teach us in law school, they show us is my cousin Vinny, and it seems like it's not a serious movie, but it actually depicts the process pretty well. And there's a thing called discovery, and there's a scene in there that they teach, which is essentially that the defense attorney is entitled to discovery. You just have to ask. And then the expert witnesses, that's one of the big things they teach about, which is anybody can be an expert. So like if there was a case, right, where I needed an expert witness in music production, well, I mean, I know you've taught at university, so you probably would be a traditional person. But like anybody who's had your background in music, right, could be somebody who could be an expert in music production, and they don't have to be traditional. Like, oh, I'm Dr. Such and Such and a professor. Like, no, I have this background, this knowledge, this expertise. So that's a good one. But I grew up watching Law and Order. That was my show. You know, it was. I also grew up watching Matlock.
Yeah.
And
you like the new one?
I haven't watched the new one.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said you steer away from it.
Yeah. Probably the last like legal show I watched was the that OJ
that was a good one.
That OJ show about the trial.
You got a favorite court related
That's a no.
programmer?
You can tell by his face.
Well, he's younger than us. I always be curious generationally.
I mean, man, like y'all be acting like I'm just.
Nah, I'm just saying it just might be, it just might be something that, like more modern that we ain't hip to.
I got you. My wife thinks all the shows are trash because they don't show the actual, like, what's really the real process. Like, you can't really say that in court.
Right.
Okay.
So when I watch Power, she be like, man, that ain't real. Like, but then it'd be like on the end where you talk about you in Miami, you be like, well, I don't know, something might be real about this story.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in every TV show, like, somebody did something for them to come up with that idea for them to use it in a TV show. So. But
I don't know how much of Power was real. That was my show, though. I can't laugh.
What about you, Jim?
Outside of Your Honor, Goliath with Billy Bob Thornton, it was on Amazon Prime. It's probably one of my favorite shows. He was he played a lawyer in that show. I think like 2 or 3 seasons, and it's phenomenal. But I think if you haven't watched it, check that out.
Word.
Yeah, I like Lincoln Lawyer. That was the one.
Yeah,
that's maybe
good.
the most recent one that I watched too.
Yeah.
Around that, you could be an expert witness though if it was like about being clean shaven. We just want to highlight that he's honoring
number 2
a friendly wager.
I ain't never want to have to get on the show, so it's
man. So we come up with a new wager just to share the experience. We ran in the hot chocolate 5K. It was this weekend, this past weekend, and we had a friendly wager. We competed. Jimmy and I, and he lost. That's why he's not wearing any headwear. If he go through other episodes and his head's covered. I just wanted to make mention of that. So if they ever needed expertise on
bald niggas,
and somebody like it, I don't care.
Check them
out. Speaking of hair, though, man, what type of wave grease you use? I've been jealous this whole time. I got me sitting there, I've been looking at this nigga head this whole damn time. Cause I used to have this back in the 6th, 7th grade, and I'm like, man, this nigga waves is just god damn. What type is it? What is that? Is that Murray or you got 360? Which one is that? This with the blue can and the orange can.
Yeah, that's what they want. They gonna want to know this.
I got a little. It's called barbershop. Hey, I don't know how I found it, but I put a little bit in. You just gotta wear your wave cap is all.
Yeah, you brush it. Do your 360 brushes.
I brush it. I got my. I use the stocking cap like Day do.
Old school, yeah.
Yeah, old school. That's it. I took one of them off right before I got out the car.
I can tell that. Hey, man, I've been mad as hell sitting right here this whole damn time, man. It's all good.
Yeah, you gotta get you one of them wave caps.
Man, I need something. I'm gonna give me one of them
eligible
wigs,
for hairwear.
I'm gonna give me a wig. I'm gonna give me one of them little toupee people be wearing. Yeah, I'm gonna give me one. Don't worry about it. Take it out of time. Change my name. Got y'all.
But I guess slightly more serious note of just trying to reel it back into where we are. I believe it was like a very high profile case here that you could tell us more about like the role you played or the position you were in with the Waffle House shooting here. Can you give us some insight to how that played out and the position like I know you've already detailed you were in the DA's office and otherwise, but just I guess give us more detailed insight there, just because there's a lot about, like I said, the story and the experience that you had up to this point.
So there was a guy, I'm not gonna say his name because he walked into a Waffle House back in 2018, and out in Antioch.
I lived like 3 minutes away at the time.
Yeah, and it was that new Waffle House, right? So it was packed, late night. Just like any one of us would go or have done at some point in our lives. And that neighborhood is the most diverse part of Nashville. So everybody in there was black. There was some Hispanic people in there. Of course, there was some white people, but majority it was us, right? And he had cased that Waffle House on a couple of occasions. And what he did was he walked in with basically an assault rifle, a Bushmaster XM15, which is their version of an AR-15. Had 90 rounds. He had no clothes on, completely naked except for a jacket, right? He needed a jacket because he wanted to carry the two clips. There's two clips with 30 rounds in each. One in there, sat outside, watched those people enjoying their lives with their friends, their loved ones, and he decided to get out of there. And I mean, he had no underwear on, no shorts, socks, shoes, nothing, completely naked. And he started shooting. He went in there to kill everybody, right? He killed 2 people on the outside, went in and started shooting people. He shot 8 people total, and he killed 4 people who definitely should have never lost their lives. And it was his intention to kill everybody else in there. He got, you remember in a Waffle House, they got, when you go to the bathroom, it's got the little swinging door right there. And he got to that Waffle House, got to that door, and he fired a shot through the window and missed. And that was the last round in that clip. And he was about to change the clip out. And that's when James Shaw Jr., who was standing back there, because a bunch of people, once they heard the gunshots, had run back there to hide. But the bathrooms was locked. So you had 3 people standing there in that one little space. They had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And he fires that last shot, and it hits James on the arm. And at that point in time, James pushed the door open, and they got to wrestling. He was able to take the gun away from him and throw it away from the over the counter. And that's the only reason why he didn't kill everybody. But he did kill 4 people, Akila and Joe and Torian and D'Ebony. 4 young people, beautiful people, wonderful families, wonderful, who have stood by those cases, for every hearing that we had. When that happened, I was supposed to go to that Waffle House that night. I had family in town. They asked, hey, they were in town. We won't go to the Waffle House. Oh, it's a new one. I was going to go. Yeah. And thankfully I didn't. But when I heard about it, same reaction to anybody in Nashville, this is ridiculous. Another mass violence happens here in Nashville. I got assigned to be on the case. And, that was something that it was, not just something that I wanted to, that, getting a big case is something that attorneys will like, but it was personal to me. I wanted to make sure that I got justice for those families. So I was on the trial team the whole time. He, the shooter, his family had money from Illinois, and we were able to track that he had gone back and got his gun. He was not supposed to have a gun because he had some mental illness, right? So he went and brought his gun back just specifically to carry out this murder. He had written all of these things, journals and things like that, in which he had made some comments which were definitely racist. James Shaw, he told me after he disarmed him, he said something, I forget the exact quote, but something to the effect of, I can't believe that nigga disarmed me or got the gun from me. So I personally felt like not only was it a horrible crime, but I thought that perhaps it was a targeted attack. Now, we didn't argue that in court because we didn't have that charge, and he's still doing 4 life sentences consecutive. But we I felt like it was targeted, and I wanted to make sure that those families, that this wasn't a case where, oh, it could be swept under the rug. Oh, he's got mental illness. He can get off and go to, the mental facility for however long, and then the judge maybe decide to let him out. I was on the trial team. I actually delivered the final closing argument, which means I was the last attorney to speak to the jury, to ask him to hold him in jail. And one of the things that struck me that I hadn't even really thought about it until recently on this trail, because I've had to go speak to a lot of churches and stuff, is the argument that his attorneys put forth was that God commanded him. That's some of the stuff that he had wrote. That God commanded him to go in and do that. So he hires this really good team, great attorneys, some of the best that you could go up against, that God commanded him to go in there and kill those people. And one of the things that they will instruct every prosecutor is you don't use the word God in closing argument, because that's you don't want to do that. Now, he put that into play, so legally I was allowed to do it. And, I stood up and I told the jury that God didn't have anything to do with what he did. That was him. That was him being evil. He wanted to kill people because he didn't like his life, because he had issues with who he was, with his own sexuality, fact that he wasn't well liked, and he saw those people sitting in that Waffle House having fun. You could see the video of it, and you can tell that they're sitting there enjoying their lives. Sorry, I'm starting to get a little emotional about it.
It's
Trying to calm down. Bro. But yeah, I'm back at this. It was you're supposed to handle a case dispassionately, and I did my job in that regard. But I would be lying to you if I didn't sit up many, many nights working hard on that case and crying for real about that. Because he took the lives of some wonderful people. And that two of the young ladies who also got shot, like they will be forever injured. The doctor who described it was like they had, a bomb had gone off on them. So, yeah, it was that was probably one of the most. That is the most memorable case I've ever worked on. Not one of.
Yeah, I ate it though. I was like, I think six days before the shooting. I took 2 videographers that were in town working. We ate there, and they called me when it hit national news, and was like, man, that's where we just work. Because ironically, like when we were there, we sat in a booth, and I asked one of them to switch seats with me so I could see the door. And they were like, man, you tripping, you always like on defense. And I'm like, I mean, some of it is instinctive just from where I've come from, experiences that I've had. The thing I was kind of grazing over earlier, I had a high profile, legal battle that revolved around a shooting in a restaurant, ironically. And so I was telling them, like, I'm not going to be able to comfortably eat in here if I can't see. There's only one way in and one way out of here. And I'm like, y'all aren't armed, it's for y'all's good, and they brushed it off and was laughing like, man, you crazy, you paranoid, and otherwise. We switched seats and otherwise. Well, they called me and it was the same way. Like, they were shook when the story, reached national media. It was like, damn, you wasn't tripping. I was like, well, I wouldn't have expected that per se. It was, more so environmental, and like you said, the diversity of the area. I just know where I am. I'm always just conscious of my surroundings. But yeah, I didn't sleep that night when it hit the news. Like, it was walking distance from where I lived at the time, and would have been it was the last Waffle House I dined at 6 days prior, and obviously the gravity of it. I saw your closing statement. When the case was ongoing in the media, I was aware of it. So it's just, for people to just give context that, like, you have your journey in this. I think you've given us a great deal of insight. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being that vulnerable to share those experiences. But I wanted people to know, like, aside from friendship, brotherhood and otherwise, that, I wanted your experience and tenure and all of it to shine through. It's not something that like you said, you stayed up, woke up in the middle of the night, compelled, and moved to do this, but it's not something that just happened overnight or last night, so to say. And yeah, man, I didn't mean to take it to such a heavy point, but
it's cool. I mean, what I'll say to you is there was a person that, and I promise I'm not saying it's like it's their fault, but just to highlight AR-15, like how serious this gun is, right? And if you shot one, like I've shot one a couple times, so like it's a different experience, right? It's a guy, he hears the gunshots, he hits the ground, you see him pull the gun out, like on the video. And I mean, but it's a guy coming in here, shooting an assault rifle. So
right.
Instead of trying to get in the shootout, because I don't know if he's trying, he ain't no police officer as far as I can tell, or a military person. He went and ran for his life, which I can't. That's probably what a lot of people would do. But
fight or flight.
Fight or flight, exactly. And thankfully he was able to make it out of there because the shooter decided to go the opposite direction of where he was. But at that point, he'd already killed some people. And really the first thing to save lives is that his scope was off. He had a scope on there. And we know this because he wrote about it after the fact. He wrote about, so he fires a shot, misses his first shot, and says, "Oh, my scope is off," because and so what he does is he takes the gun and turns it down barrel. And so now instead of looking through the scope, he's looking down the side of it, right? And that first shot hit the glass, shattered it. And so everybody, of course, you hear a gunshot, what you gonna do?
Hit the ground.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that saved some lives, but again, he killed 4 people, injured 2 more in a way that they will never be able to be fully recovered. And then he fled, and you should have been up because he was in your neighborhood for like 36 hours before the police found him.
I remember when I was in the airport headed to Miami that day, and I seen on the TV, I seen James Shaw picture. I was like, man, he looked familiar, and I got closer, and I was reading what was happening, and I was like, wow, that's insane. Something like that happening, in the place I grew up in. That's one of the first times I remember something of that magnitude happening. But yeah, that shit was wild. That was some wild shit. Some wild shit.
Yeah. It was. I will say that I handled that case all the way through the trial, and he filed a motion for new trial, so he hired a team of attorneys who across the state who some came from Memphis, some from Knoxville. And so his family really backed him financially on this, because these are not attorneys who you just get off the, hey, go through the phone book, let me get this person. He hired some of the best attorneys he could to get his conviction overturned. And so we defended the conviction, which is kind of reverses the roles. They put on evidence and we cross-examine as opposed to the normal way. And last month, the judge said that the conviction is going to stand. He's going to stay in prison. And, now the courts of criminal appeals are going to look at it, but hopefully it stays in, which, further, shows you the importance of the judge, because that one judge who heard that hearing, the motion for new trial, and heard the jury trial, could have at any point in time decided that he wanted to overrule the verdict of the jury. He could have dismissed the case in multiple phases. He could have granted a new trial, or in many ways, and said, we're going to new trial. This conviction is not going to stand. So you got to have somebody, and that was his authority. He was empowered to make that decision. So it was a stressful time all the way through that point for years now. So.
For your particular office, and that's with all of the criminal court judges, they have that discretion during the trial, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The judge, when I try to break it down to people, is the judge has the authority to decide who goes to jail and who goes home. They get to decide if the case continues forward or if it ends today. And so you want to have a judge who is both smart and cares.
Mm-hmm. I think more so just curious about like we talk about something like legal maxims from the perspective of, if you go back to slavery or before slavery, when we talk about chattel property, the way that the ownership for the children or the calves or whatever would be based on the father's hereditary. So if farmer A had the bull, farmer B had the heifer, then farmer A is gonna keep the calves because they're the man's. But the color of law talks about how in America that was changed to be for the hereditary to fall to woman. Because if a slave master is raping his slave, then he's gonna have a whole lot of mixed kids that are free. So that's kind of where the foundation or the impetus of that book kind of goes into how laws are written, particularly, and even if we look at like somebody that we know, Big Fridge, like those particular drug laws where it was a mandatory thing, and then after a while, because of how disproportionately it impacted a certain demographic, then they started making changes to those policies related to like school zone, drugs, and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what the book is, I believe, in like a short, higher version. I don't know what his question was about it though.
I was just, because, I've been learning about it. It's, Black History Month, and, I've just been kind of like learning how certain things like the government do to kind of keep us separated and also kind of like hold us down from trying to be bigger than what we kind of are right now, even especially back then. And so I was just gonna ask you like what your thoughts were about that, and because I honestly I just kind of breezed through it, not breeze through it, but I've been kind of learning, picking up on it. So
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I'm a black man that grew up in Nashville from the South, so I've seen it. I live in North Nashville, that zip code that encompasses North Nashville 37208, for about a 30-year period. 30 years. It was the most incarcerated zip code in the nation. And so that tells you a lot about, our system, not just the justice system like everywhere across the country, but it tells you something about what we had specifically here in Nashville, right? You can't lock up all of those people who live in a overwhelmingly black neighborhood unless you are both over policing and you're over sentencing people and also over prosecuting. So there are definitely laws and practices that are put in place. Now, there are some laws that you can look at on their face that make that are colorblind.
yeah,
Right? You can say that we're going to prosecute people for, that it's illegal to possess drugs. Kind of what Shoot was talking about, this whole school zone stuff. And that increased the maximum sentence you can get. If you live in a more rural community, then you're never going to be within 1,000 feet of a school zone. So if you're at your house and you are, possessing drugs or selling drugs, you won't get the maximum when they execute a search warrant on your house and you got a bunch of drugs in there. If you live in my neighborhood, in about a block off of Buchanan Street, you're going to be pretty close to a park or a school zone or a daycare or a church. You just, it's right there at the end of my corner, right? Mm-hmm. It's right there. So if I'm doing the exact same drug dealing that somebody who's living out in Rutherford County, or if you get even further out, down in Murray County, right? If I'm doing the exact same drug dealing, even if I work with them, like we might be partners, I'm going to get a heavier sentence than they will because I got the school zone. So then it isn't colorblind. And so, luckily, thankfully, number one, our office, when we got our new district attorney, he backed away from it. He said he wasn't going to prosecute those cases. And then the legislature finally agreed to not do that. And in many ways, that's why Fridge is out now, right? And there are many other people like that whose names are, who haven't built a platform on talking about their story and how they were unjustly treated in the system, who have benefited from some of these changes. We got to have those changes in our system. And what I would say is, the judge's job is to call balls and strikes, which is just simply say like, all right, if the jury says you're convicted of this, then that's, you're supposed to sentence you in that. But if the judge actually cares and knows about some of this history, then they can look beyond just saying, okay, I looked at the basic facts then you say, okay, well, some of this story isn't actually adding up in a way that is meaningful or makes sense to me, and they can move up and down their guidelines when it's appropriate, or also just call bullshit when the detective comes in and testifies and they don't think it's the truth. You know, that person is truly a danger to the community, or that person actually did it in the way that they said it.
Yeah, I totally agree, because the other people, their favorite argument when talking about black people and crimes, despite making 13% of the population, we make up like this great amount of number of the crime, but it's like that's not a testament to our people as a character. That's testament of how we're over analyzed and over like policed and over surveillance as a people, and kind of give an unfair share in the legal system as well. And I just really wanted to like really dive into that when I looked at that book and when I asked that question. So
yeah, no, I mean that's a fact. We make up the overwhelming majority. I don't know the exact statistic of what our incarceration is, but I think they're probably. I'm pretty sure there are more black people in prison right now than there at this time than there ever were enslaved in America, right? So that is also telling you something about our system, and that's why we have to have judges who even know and care about that. Number one, if they don't know it, then it's real easy to say, well, I didn't know. I just looked at this as a case by case basis. Well, somebody should be trying to track that and look at it in a certain way. As a prosecutor, as if I explained, I had the power to dismiss cases, and I did that, or to make sure that we didn't over prosecute somebody or over imprison somebody in those instances. And I used my authority to do that. That even if the defense attorney was terrible, okay, there are some who are terrible, and honestly, there are some who are racist. They look at that young black man as a check, and that's all he is. They don't care nothing about him.
Facts.
And so I've had to be the from my perspective, I've had to play both sides, both defense attorney and prosecutor. I had to look at it in both sides and try to do what I thought was fair and what was just in that case.
So how do you deal with that, like from the prosecution side of things? If you can see it, you obviously have some discernment, as a black man. Like, how do you deal with that if you're prosecuting this case? And I mean, set aside the idea if you think, because I'm sure like you've been in situations where you probably like, okay, they really didn't do this, or I'm looking at the facts of it, and otherwise, or if it's it's marginal, you can't, but you see like the person that's representing them doesn't care. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like throwing them to the wolves, that they're gonna underperform and not do their job at all because they're viewed as a check. Like I'm just curious how that works, because it's got to be personally conflicting, but then you have your duty as your job is like, how do you deal with that?
Well, I mean, I had to do my job, but it simply put, I'm gonna do what is right. All the time. That's what my job is, to do what's right. And like, if you actually look at that case as a person and not like just a set of facts or the state of Tennessee versus defendant, then it's real easy to do what's right. But if you only seeing it as another case, or some blank face, just another person that walked into a courtroom as charges, then you don't care, then I guess somebody could not do what is right. I will give you an example where I felt like a defense attorney was not doing what was right. There was a case where this kid had been transferred. So he is charged he was arrested as a juvenile, transferred into adult court. Now he's looking at adult time, even though he's still a juvenile. He was charged with some very serious crimes, like aggravated rape, aggravated robbery, and rape. That's the kind of stuff that you sit down for a long time on, right? And the defense attorneys, they're supposed to say, my client is not guilty. And the prosecutor's supposed to say, yeah, I understand, you know what I'm saying? But okay, whatever. That's the initial conversation. He didn't do it. And so now we have to like build beyond that. Like, so of course, attorney says that to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, well, you know, but as I looked at the facts and what I had, I felt like I had a strong case, right? On his face, I had a good identification, I had more than one witness. I had a immediate report. I had what looked like a thorough investigation. And if I take this to trial, which I was prepared to do, this young man is going to prison for a long time because I don't see a jury acquitting him. It's always possible, but unlikely. Then I figured out some way that maybe he was actually innocent. So we started digging, me and another person I worked with, we started digging. And eventually we get a jail call where this kid is talking to his mom, and there's some information in that call, like just a few, you know, small part of that one conversation out of many calls, where we find out, okay, well, the person who likely did it was his brother. Well, now his brother and him look just alike. His brother and him actually had the same name, right? Now, I don't know if the defense attorney was trying to hold that strategically, but this kid had been in jail for over a year at this point in time on bogus charges, right? Now, maybe in his mind, he was going to be going up against a DA who didn't have any morals. But from me, what was more important wasn't that it wasn't more important that we locked up somebody the person who did it. Was more important that we didn't keep the innocent person in, right? So once we had our fully confirmed he didn't do it, we dismissed the case. And then they were like, well, you going to charge the brother. Well, shooter tell you, I can never prove that case because now they've identified the wrong person, right? He's walking in the court. He's won that.
Yeah, as soon as you bring that, let me call this witness now. We'll bring them both on the stand, you know, because there's deniability.
Right,
you know,
exactly. Yeah, so tell me that. But, you know, so after I dismissed the case, I had some choice words for that attorney, and he was like, but nah, man, like, you know.
Yeah, and then another thing I was gonna say too is that I think that every attorney, like your name, your reputation is really all that you have to trade on. And so if you become an attorney that people don't respect, like I said, like being able to go into court and be able to still know some of the people that are working in court, to be able to say, hey, I got this case, here's what I believe, and they tell me what they believe. I believe that based on the years of working with them, having that rapport, them knowing that I work my cases, and so like to his point, Dowdy's point, if the DA is talking to an attorney, they know they don't work their cases, they're not gonna believe anything they say. Because it's like, well, if you come in here and lie to me because your client is lying to me, and I go put this deal up, and then it comes out some other shit, Glenn gonna be on my head, or my supervisor gonna be on my head about, well, why did you do this, or why didn't you do this, you know? And so if an attorney is, you know, not worth their weight or pulling their weight or not really defending, like, because like Dowdy said, there are attorneys, and I'm gonna look in the camera and say this, that have 5-star ratings on Google that ain't shit and will not work your case and will take your money. And it's a fact, and attorneys know that. Like, it's you know, it's just one of those things. Unfortunately, like he said, they look at some of these young black men that are in jail, that can't pay their bond. Their bond may be 120, you know, anything over 75,000, you got to have a source hearing. So you sitting down till you had a hearing. And so if if the attorney, or sometimes these specific groups of attorneys that are marketing, or, you know, trying to get your business, and they know you're in jail, they know you got a finite amount of time. Like, your hearing may be in a couple of days. You have limited options. Ain't like you can Google search it, you know, while you locked up. And so they do just take, you know, niggas' money, you know, unfortunately.
They will. And even the ones who are appointed attorneys, there's a lot of good ones that are appointed attorneys. They actually care, they do their job. But it's some of them, they'll drag their case out because every court appearance they get a little bit more.
They can build.
They can build a little bit more. And meanwhile, so they come in, they're like, I've seen it. I come in, you know, maybe I had to step out of the courtroom for something, and I look down at the docket, like, oh, this already been continued.
Yep.
It's already been continued. How did it get continued? Oh, he came in, he snuck up, went to the clerk, or asked the judge if it was cool to get a continuance. Well, it was no reason to continue it. Like, everything's ready. Like, either we're going to plea or set it for trial or had a hearing or something. But, you know, that was another date that they got a little extra money on. And now they can run up their bill. And then once they feel like they build the maximum or build as much as they want to on the case, then they come in and like, all right, my client's ready to plead. And you come to find out, client was ready to plead 6 months ago.
Yeah.
You know, like, why did we let him sit for so long?
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question back to domestic violence. What's the percentage of victims that are males in DV cases?
Very few, to be quite frank. I know as men, Black men, we hear about these instances, and so our ears are attuned to listen out to the woman who is actually abusive to the man. But if you take a large look out on, if you look at the full view, like I said, I led the domestic violence team. That's our largest team in the DA's office because that's the greatest share of crime in Nashville. Like, there's more domestic violence than anything else, right? At least 90% of those probably victims are women, right? So I don't know the math. I think there are places that track it, and you know, maybe I'll shoot y'all something. And you can we can put an answer in the comments what the actual number is, because it might not be 90% that are women.
It's pretty high though.
But it is pretty high. Yeah. I mean, overwhelmingly.
Is that because women come forth and men don't put cases on women who commit those crimes?
I would say yes. Women are more likely to come forward. The instances where I've seen men be the victim of a crime of domestic violence, they come in like a man, like, oh, okay, she hit me. They usually got to be pushed all the way to their limit. And then a lot of times the cases where the man has been the victim of might not be physical abuse, it's some other kind of abuse where domestic violence also includes vandalism, where she has destroyed property. Yeah.
I've been through.
Yeah, I was gonna say blink twice if you're okay, bro.
No, I'm just saying I've lived a life, and but I never, I don't.
Well, to your question, that I have talked to a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but I have talked to some friends of mine and associates that have been in what's called a domestic violence relationship, where there's levels of domestic assault. When you deal with domestic assault, you can Google this power and control wheel. And like some of those things are hit, and it's not necessarily always physical violence. Sometimes it's financial assistance, it's keeping you from your family, keeping you from your friends, not letting you go to work, not letting you choose certain things, anything that shifts the power and control dynamic. And unfortunately, which is why, again, while we had this space, society has deemed that it's not manly for you to resolve your domestic issues by going and reporting it to the police. And if you are confident enough to go report it to the police, unfortunately, because of the training the police officers have, 95% of them are not going to take the man seriously. They're going to say, do you really want to,
One time I tried to take it to the police. This is the question he asked me, why I had him right there in front of me. He said, "Are you fucking her raw?" That's what he asked me.
Well, damn.
And I'm like, what does that have to do with what I done? You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, you know what? Never mind, bro. Like, this ain't even
right.
And yes, I am, but that don't mean that what's been done to me is okay. I called you for a reason,
right?
And so that's why I don't. I just shut up and just pray about it.
He was worried about the meat department, man.
That's a wild question.
Yeah, bro. You should got his badge number.
You came in vulnerable.
That must have been before body cams. They had body cams all the time for them.
3 black cops, and that's one of them asked me that question. Swear to God, I said, all right, bro. Yeah, I ain't gonna say, but
I'm sorry, bro.
It ain't funny.
I'm not trying to laugh.
That was a wild.
Bro.
That was a wild.
I'm laughing at the absurdity of the police.
That's the honest to God truth. That's what he asked me. I thought he was about to ask me something for real. Like, are you fucking her raw? Bro, I called 911, bro. What does it have to do with anything?
Nothing.
So yeah,
nothing to do with anything. Yeah, that's one of the things that the police need, though, to be serious, is training on a lot of those issues. We had to make sure, and the police supervisors, they're supposed to make sure that they get the proper training to recognize certain things, right? That just because the person, maybe if the woman called first, doesn't mean that the woman wasn't also the first aggressor or the abuser. They have to do that in same-sex relationships, because that's domestic too. And there was a time where they weren't properly. They would probably say or ask stupid ass questions like they ask you, and so you have those issues. And it's also true with like trans victims as well, and those are very rare because there aren't that many trans people in Nashville. But I mean, those cases do come up where if it isn't your traditional man abuses woman, then you get in some of those sticky situations where they weren't properly ready to understand. Like, this is a serious situation. Like, you coming to them, it's probably something that even if before you call 911, you thought, number one, do I even want to call the police?
Right.
And number two, like, just as a man, like, is this something that perhaps I can deal with, or does the court need to be? Now, I can imagine all of that went through your mind before you did so, and then for them to show up and then just be so dismissive is absolutely ridiculous and offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it perpetuates, again, because he's decided now he's not gonna call back. So we think about other opportunities.
I've called a couple of times too, but I had to. But yeah, I mean, but not for that. Like, I'm done with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Chad. Hey, y'all. Look, this is a Work in Progress podcast.
What we working on?
Man, put your W's in the chat if you like this discussion. Y'all make sure y'all support my guy right here. Where they can find you at?
At votefordowdy.com. Vote FORDOWDY.com.
Hey, subscribe. Y'all rocking with us?
Nah, we just didn't get into the. Well, we stayed on topic. We was gonna get into the basketball. See, we was district champs. We beat the hell out of East.
Sure did.
Get into
Nah,
it,
that's
man.
cool. That's cool. You won. You won. When
Nah,
we
he was
played
actually gonna
36.
set us up for our progress report, because we ain't do that shit.
that too.
I ain't
But
want to hear shit about y'all beating East.
yeah,
Y'all
I'm
went
just
there.
saying. Yeah, you weren't there. I give you that. You won when we played 36. I give you that. He lost in the 5K race over there.
Yeah.
Got to remind him of that. We running another one. St. Patrick's 5.
St. Patty's 5K, March the 6th, 7th.
Not the country you know, March 13th.
March 13th.
What's election day?
Election day is May 5th, early voting April 15th through the 30th. It's a county-wide race. As long as you live in Davidson County, you can vote.
And it's for Division 3.
Division 3,
Criminal
that's right.
Court.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out, early voting probably won't start yet, but you can still absolutely make sure you go vote as soon as early voting starts.
April 15th.
April 15th.
Hey, after my birthday.
Dig
So
that.
make sure you remember to go vote.
Yeah, meet Los at the pause. Will birthday gift, early voting.
Yeah.
That's how we'll do that.
Out there with Uncle Sam at.
What you working on?
And progress report. So, did you say what it is exactly?
No, I didn't say what it is. So we tried to.
Let me get into
My bad,
it.
Los. My
trying to get us
bad.
out
Bro.
of
I
here.
thought you was wrapping us up, cuz.
I was gonna get there.
He was trying to go watch Law and Order.
Dum-dum.
I'm watching Lincoln Lawyer, Landman, and Cross right now, and also Paradise is out.
Paradise is back.
I just got into
finished 2
Paradise. I'm on
episodes.
episode 4 right now.
Okay.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Season
I don't see the one.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
okay,
no
okay,
spoilers.
okay,
This is a high achiever.
I've been
It ain't
reading.
even 4 episodes. I ain't got the extra.
Nah, I
bootleg.
started
Yeah.
from the beginning.
Yeah,
I've been in
this
that
boy
book
here,
too,
man.
so that's
So you done made progress in your book.
yeah. I'm about
Yeah.
about
What about
halfway
you,
through.
David and Goliath?
My book is making progress on me. Yeah, I'm working on it. We good. I'm reading my book, y'all. Don't be. Hey, when I come back in the book read, don't be asking me no questions.
We got to. That's the only way we're gonna know if you read it.
I've been reading the book, man. This shit.
Dig that.
So should I ask you what chapter you're on?
Don't ask
Cause
me. I'm on 4.
that's
You
one
said that
further.
last time.
No, he
Nah,
said 3 last
three.
time. He
Okay,
said 3
three
last
last
time.
Hey,
I watched it. Yeah,
Which book you got?
What the dog saw.
How far are you on that one? I ain't opened.
Shit, I'm still looking at what the dog saw. I'm just looking at it.
the cover.
I ain't got it. I'm gonna get on
Do I
audiobook.
need to get you a gift card to get you an Audible
No, I get it. I got a credit. I got a credit I can use on that.
Because we definitely about supporting that.
Say
You know,
if you go to
read
the
or
library,
audio
you
book.
You can get a free Audible, something like if you.
Yeah, there's a
pass.
app. I can't remember the name of it, but there's an app. If you have a library card, you can download audiobooks for free and not have to pay for them through Audible.
There it is.
Yeah.
So what you got? The progress report for us?
Yeah, progress report. We're finna get into it. Like I said, subscribe. Make sure you tell a friend. Make sure you keep sharing it. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you drop some comments, some questions in the this camera.
Yeah, blue camera.
Okay, hold on. Make sure you drop some questions in the. Make sure you drop some questions in the YouTube chat or the link. Hit us up. Subscribe. If you want to see that basketball game where I was busting their ass in 36, go subscribe right now on our YouTube channel. Make sure you listen to us on all platforms: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all that. Do all that. All right. Work in Progress podcast. Let's get into the progress report.
All right, progress report. So last time we was together, we talked about getting ready for the race. We already ran the race. We also recorded another episode with another guest, so that'll be coming. I think for me, I'm gonna have to change what I said about the next race and my times.
Yeah. You said you was gonna beat me.
Yeah, I did say that, but I didn't realize how many days until the race.
Like next week.
Yeah, nigga.
It don't matter how many days it's gonna be.
Yeah, man. No. See, what we not gonna do
I don't think
is
you can talk that strong.
I can talk that strong.
he gonna talk that strong because he gonna say, "Well, this nigga read 34 minutes and I read 25."
You got some.
So what are you working on for the accountability of the progress?
What I'm working
report?
on is I'm still running. I ran a minute faster than I did in the 5K race, but it's not gonna be enough to have it done by the next race. So I got to push that out a little bit.
Summertime.
Yeah, summertime. I like a summertime. Let's do a summertime.
So you're working on fitness, endurance, your speed,
reading books.
Okay.
Flying planes. I want to fly a plane again.
To get away.
What about you? What you working on, Los?
I am actually working on more events. Working on my budgeting for events right now. Trying to figure out what I'm about to do for this next quarter. All these events coming up. I gotta make sure I hit them on the head, son. So that's what I'm working on as far as like business. Mentally, I'm working on strengthening my mind.
Working on communication?
Yeah.
What about you, Jimmy?
Man, we're working on healing my what's funny, bro? Working on healing my heart chakra, man. That's why I got this rose quartz with me, and I'm just trying to heal. It's just this is for the heart chakra.
How does that work? That's like a stress ball?
No. It's a crystal, man. It's a crystal.
Oh,
okay. Pass that to him. It feels good.
So he done went from inner child to heart, man. I love this inner work that you got going on, Jimmy.
No, like fun fact, when I like say at my lowest point in my life, I got a friend who's big into crystals. She told me to get this. She do energy work, and we was doing the session, and she was just waving her hand around me. She said, "It's real heavy right here." And my chest was hurting at the time too. It was crazy how she felt that. And she recommended me to go to the crystal store and talk to them. And I went in there and spent about $700 on crystals. And this is one of them. And I know it sounds weird or whatever, but I would go home and I would sleep with this on my chest. And just doing that over time, it kind of helped. But
quick question: the crystal lady, is that the sound as a sound?
No, it's not the same. Not the same person.
Just wanted to see.
Not the same person. Not the same person at all. I wish, but yeah, this is what I'm trying. This is what I'm working on right now. I'm dealing with a lot, and this is how I, try to improve with that.
Man, I love that. What you working on, cuz? I know you got a lot coming up in the next 10 days.
Yeah, and beyond. I'm working on endurance. Like, I think patience was something early on that I noted, but with endurance, I think a lot of times it's about our pace and how we choose to go about things. And I'm in album rollout, album cycle. I'm trying some new things to achieve different results. So my workload is as arduous as it's ever been, and I'm gratitude is the other part of it. I appreciate it. I'm partnered with with Empire on this album, doing with band play, and the album rollout is very, very extensive. I'm probably averaging 3 or 4 conference calls a day at this point, just like truly like owning what it is to be an independent artist and label owner. I'm gonna leave here tonight and go into a session with 2 of the artists on my label because they got a collab album they're working on. And just having an appreciation for it, because a lot of times when we get busy, we can feel bogged down and like stressed out about it. Versus, I can remember when things were slow, and the endurance piece of it, like I feel like I did at 19 years old, 18, 19 years old, about to put out my first project. I feel like rejuvenated. I feel like I'm reinventing myself as an artist, trying some new things. So I say endurance because, you know, it used to be a time when I felt like the well was, you know, it's not a like infinite resource. You can only go to the well so many times, as they say. Versus, I think when you're doing it from like a place of like pure intention or with some like passion behind it, it is what you make it. So this album, Not the Country You Know, is much that, a passion project. Like I got on a cowboy hat on the cover on one side of it, and I'm not worried about alienating myself because I know who I am. So I'm working on exploring, you know, my artistry to the highest level. So right now, immediately, what I'm working on is this listening experience, an event that we hosting here at the National Museum of African American Music to preview the album. And everything's come together there. We're gonna have a panel with myself and band play, but also Young Buck, Street Symphony, and Shannon Sanders. And it's to like enlighten and inspire. Cause to me that's like a starting five, a who's who of musicians that have achieved like greatness on almost every level and every capacity, and we're all like homegrown. We're native Nashvillians and outside of the country music space, which gets most of the like fanfare and notoriety as far as Nashville, Music City, and otherwise. And more power to that. This album, I know we ain't talked about it on here, but it's I got quite a few collaborations with country artists. I've been writing the last year and a half, almost 2 years. I've been writing some country music. I've been collaborating with writers in the country space. It's just something that, you know, I'm into. I feel like I'm a writer more than I'm a rapper. I feel like I'm an artist above all. So yeah, that's what I've been working on, kind of in the shadows, and it's about to, you know, come to light, as they say. And endurance, man, you just gotta run your own race. Like
see it through.
What about you, bro? What you working on?
I mean,
besides the obvious.
But the obvious is I'm working on this campaign. But honestly, it's a couple things that have come up. Like, you know, I've always done like a traditional path, which is go to school, go work a job. I've always worked, you know, and the path has been laid out clear. And so as part of this process, I had to quit my job, you know, in order to do this. And so that was a huge leap of faith. You know, and I've had to be a different person or do things that I wouldn't normally do. I'm usually more pensive about things. I usually like to think a little bit more before I start acting. And instead of, you know, rewriting a text message, hey, you free? Like, you know, literally I'm just picking up the phone and calling somebody like, hey, you know, let's get up. And if they don't answer, it's cool. I'll move on to the next one. But that's not who I traditionally am. I'm usually cool with just like hanging to the back with just my few people. And now I'm like every day going to 4 and 5 different events, and I'm just walking up to people and like, hey, let's chop it up. And let me tell you about me and let me hear about you. So I feel like I'm growing a lot. And in many ways, I've always admired entrepreneurs and people like yourself. Like I was at your first, what I think was your first performance at Hadley Park with with Farad when y'all were looking in Maine back in the day. But what was that? Like we was like 16, 17, something like that.
Had to be 17, maybe 17.
Yeah, but anyway, so I've admired people like yourself who bet on yourself, who gone out and done it on your own. And I always like, always in my mind I was like, man, I could do that, and I never did. I've never done it until about a month ago when I'm like, all right, I'm gonna bet on myself. I'm gonna do it. And so, I believe I'm gonna win this campaign, and then I'll be, that'll be a more traditional job again. But for these last these few months, I'm really enjoying like doing my own thing, working my own schedule, and being my own boss.
It is.
Proud of you too, bro.
For sure.
Appreciate it.
For sure.
We supporting you. Make sure you tap in with them. Link be right here so you can support the campaign. It's been a really great episode, y'all. What y'all think?
Man, I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed myself. Learned a lot. Got to put a little input in. Got to chop it up with some fellow esquires, Yeah. But he's stupid, man. Y'all ignorant. I can't stand y'all, man. Look, this is the Work in Progress podcast. Like I told y'all before, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit us up. I go by the name Loso.
I'm Shoot.
Jimmy Hatcher.
The baby legend.
and Ronald Dowdy, candidate for criminal court judge.
Hey, Work in Progress podcast. We'll holler at you later. Peace.
Peace.